This condition Boon Chronomancer build is really easy to learn, has a very nice sustained damage rotation, has plenty of CC in the kit, has crazy good boon uptime as well. It's fun to play, and the best part is you can fill the quickness or alacrity boon DPS role. Be sure to watch the whole video to not miss out a thing. As always, special shout out to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch and Patreon that help me keep the lights on. And now, without much further ado, let's jump straight into this amazing build. This is a PvE build guide for the offensive DPS role. If you want to see other offensive DPS builds or other builds that are just used in PvE or in all game modes, be sure to check out the link to my spreadsheet in the description where every single build that I released on YouTube is listed. Be sure to check that out as well. But now let's start with the gear. So for gear, it's quite straightforward. It's actually really straightforward. You go for full, I'm not joking, full Viper gear. Full Viper, which gives you power and condition damage main stat and precision expertise secondary stat. You would go with full Rune of the Trapper, of course, as well, for just the most amount of damage. If you can afford infusions, you would go with Condi infusions. Not like I am here with power. Keep that in mind. Condi is the best one. For weapons, you would go with the Staff and Scepter Torch. This is like really important. And those would be also Viper. For your Sigils, you would go with Sigil of Bursting, as well as Sigil of Torment on your Staff, just for more damage. And on your Scepter, you would also go for Bursting, but on your Torch, you would go with Sigil of Earth. For your Relic, you would go with Relic of Akeem, which just gives you more confusion and torment. It's really nice. And for your trinkets, again, full Viper as well. And of course, infusions, like I said, full Malign, so condition damage infusions. For your food and utility consumables, it's actually only one choice that is really good here, which is Meaty Asparagus Skewers, which give you 15% increased torment duration and 70 Condi damage. It's just very, very good in the amount of stats that it gives you. So don't use Ascended Food, use this one, it's really good. For utility consumables, you would go with Tuning Icicles or something that gives similar amounts of stats. By the way, if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. So the traits are actually quite nice for offensive support. You have Chaos, you have Illusions, and you have Chronomancer. Grant Regeneration when you use a healing skill, that's quite nice. Just a little bit more regen, typically not that important. Then you get a buff when you get Chaos Aura, which gives you 7% more condition damage. It's really nice. Really, really good. Keep that in mind. So Chaos Aura is really important on this build. And then when you're affected by regeneration, which should be always the case in a group scenario, you get expertise and concentration. Then for the traits, you would take Method of Madness to actually create a Chaos Storm, a lesser Chaos Storm, when you cast your healing skill. That's important to not only upkeep this, but also does some nice damage and CCs. Then Chaotic Potency, just more condition damage, especially on your staff you get more, and you get less recharge on your staff. And then this is the big one. Get stability when you shatter, so you actually have like permanent stability on this build, even though you are, so to say, supporter, offensive supporter. And you actually get boons or give boons to your allies as well. So you give, for example, on resistance on your F5, you give stability to your allies. On your distortion, that's also quite nice. You're an offensive support that can easily bring stability. You give fury, vigor, and might as well. That's really nice, just helping your defensive support out with the boon uptime. Then you have illusions, so your damage trade line. Just more confusion, and your duration of confusion is longer. You get a small damage buff when you create illusions, and your shatter skills recharge reduction is higher. This is really good because you actually get to spam them way more frequently. Then your flame burst skills from the torch, so 4 and 5, actually give you a little bit more damage. Then shatter skills now inflict torment. That's really important because you shatter a lot, so you get a lot of torment from that. And then confusion inflict has increased duration. That's really good. And when dodging attack, you actually inflict infusion on the enemy. This can be somewhat okay, but typically it's not very reliable in most fights. So if you evade an attack, yes, you get a little bit more damage or lose less damage from not keeping damage up because you evade, but it's like, yeah, it's not that much of a difference. It's more for the duration increase. And then you have Chronomancer. Of course, you get quickness access with this trait or alacrity access, which to what the group actually needs. They play exactly the same. Whenever you cast a Phantasm, you actually get around you a proc of quickness or alacrity depending on the trait, and when you shatter, you get the same. It's depending on how many clones you shatter, so always try to shatter with 3 clones up. Quickness and alacrity use the same gear, it's just switching this trait. Double check if you really want to fill the role that you're currently selected. For the minor traits, you get some passive alacrity and you get to move faster, that's also quite nice. But most importantly, you get here some damage on your shatters. This is not too crazy because you're Condi build, but it's better than nothing. Because you run Viper, so you still deal some damage. And then you get improved alacrity, absolutely broken trait. It will be changed after the next balance patch, but this build will still run it and it will not change too much. It's more like recharge reduction or alacrity is improved while the duration is decreased. You can still upkeep it with the straight 100% even if you're not the alacrity support, but you get more value from alacrity, so that's just helping a lot. And then, of course, those straights are already mentioned. So let's quickly cover the utility skills before we get to the weapon skills and the rotation. So the healing skill should always be Signet of Ether because it resets your phantasms. So it's really, really good because this is high damage phantasms and this is a really high damage phantasm and it procs twice. So it's really easy to upkeep the quickness and alacrity if you reset this. Then mirror images is amazing. It's a stun break, but most importantly, it creates 2 clones, which you then can use to shatter, for example, the Rewinder to get amazing damage. And then you have just passive damage with condition damage improvement, here expertise improvement. Those you should never use. This is a stun break, this is a CC, but typically I would keep them for the passive damage. And then you can run whatever, Signet of Humility for some nice breakbar damage. You could go for mass invisibility if you need it, or just some more aggressive damage and a little bit less CC with gravity veil. And of course you can also use a time warp for just some quickness uptime or super speed uptime. So switch and match what is needed. If the first thing that you would swap if you want to go for more utility would be the mirror images. You could go for blink, you could go for mimic or portal or more stability mantra or cleanses or reflect, or there is so much options. Condi removal with Boon removal as well. There are so many options. Just switch to what is necessary. So, or for example, Well of Action if you want to keep up more wounds. It's really like switch what you need. This is the most damaging option, but there are so many options on Mesmer, so adjust it when necessary. For your weapon skills, yeah, auto attack on staff is not that good, but it does some nice damage. The 2 pots you back, is instant cast and creates a clone. The 3 creates 2 phantasms and does some nice damage. This will be really important because it's also your skill, so to say, that not only does damage, but also does a lot of wounds for your allies. Then you get Chaos Aura, which gives you the buff for damage. And then you get the Chaos Storm, which you should also use, especially if you combine it with the Phase Retreat, because then you actually get the Chaos Aura again, which then gives you the damage buff again. So keep that in mind. For your Scepter, the auto attack is actually quite interesting because it does damage, and the last hit is actually applying a clone. And keep in mind, this is really weird because you can actually cast this auto attack. And the last hit, so to say, you can see I can pre-stack that, so to say. And if I, for example, use the counter spell, so the second skill, which is block if you cast it fully, but typically would just double tap it and throw this projectile to get some nice confusion damage out. This will not interrupt your cast for whatever, or the chain of the auto attack. Keep that in mind. So you can actually spam the auto attack, double tap this, and then use the last auto attack skill to create a clone again. So it's really like weird, but it works like that. And this double tapping also creates a clone, so keep that in mind. This skill is just some very hard-hitting power attack that also does crazy amounts of confusion damage. So use that once on your rotation, but we get to that in a second. Then this is an instant cast almost with condition remove and blast finisher and a lot of damage. So use that whenever. And then you have the Phantasmal Mage, which is a CC and crazy amount of damage as well. And of course gives you some nice alacrity or quickness. It's really, really good. And then your shatter skills, they use distortion defensively if you need stability for your team, or if you want to not take damage. Use this for CC and use your F2 always with 3 clones, because this is really important. It will also recharge depending on how many clones you shattered. So you actually get way less cooldown if you shattered the 3 clones, and you can spam it way more often. That's the most damaging skill because it applies a lot of confusion and just a lot of torment as well. The one skill also is really, F1 skill is really important as well. It does some power damage and some torment, but the F2 is the more important one. Always use your shatters with 3 clones if you can do that. Let's now talk about the rotation. So for the opener, you want to cast Phantasmal Mage, use the Prestige into Illusion or Counter and Counter spell, so double tapping the 2. Weapon swap, use a Phantasmal Wardog, and while you cast it, use your Continuum Split. Always try to use your mirror images to shatter a 3 clone Rewinder, and try that to happen in the Continuum Split, because that will be amazing damage, because you can do it right after you come out of Continuum Shift again, so you double the value, so to say. Use your Signet of Ether to reset your Phantasmal Wardog and use Phantasmal Warlock. Use Chaos Storm into Phase Retreat, and then the Continuum Shift ends. Then use your Phantasmal Warlock into Signet of Ether again, into Phantasmal Warlock, and use your Chaos Storm, and then use the Phase Retreat as soon as it comes off cooldown and swap weapons, and then you are already in your loop. In the Scepter loop, you always want to instantly cast your counter spell, so double tapping the 2 skill. Use the Phantasmal Mage into Confusing Images. Then you auto attack a bit until counter spell comes off, use it again, use a few auto attacks and use your counter spell again. And then you weapon swap, so always 3 counter spells until you weapon swap again. always use the Prestige, so your 4 skill on the Torch when it's available. When you go to Staff, you always use instantly the Phantasmal Warlock into Phase Retreat. Then you use the Chaos Storm into another Phase Retreat. So keep in mind that you want to be safe and use the Chaos Storm always when you use the Phase Retreat right after, so that you actually get the Chaos Aura. So fill it with auto attacks in between. And then use the Phantasmal Warlock into Signet of Ether and Warlock. And then Phase Retreat to Weapon Swap. So always use Phantasmal Warlock once, wait until it's up again, use it once and reset it with the Signet of Ether. This is the loop. A few more tips here. Your Signet of Ether will interrupt any other skills, so be aware and not use it while you are still casting the Warlock, because that will interrupt the attack. Try to use or save your time sink, so you have 3 skill for break bars, and use all the spare clones on your F1. I would keep the F4 skill for dangerous situations. Like I mentioned already, so to say, pre-stack the auto attack chain and use the counter spell, as it will not interrupt the chain. And that's the build. I think it's really fun to play. It's really strong. Yes, it has some weaknesses because it's a Condi build and is not always the most bursty one. It also requires an enemy target to actually upkeep the boons and loses some damage on moving targets, but it's very fun to play. It is easy to learn and hard to master, so it's a really cool build to actually have fun with. It has a simple rotation for the most part, has plenty, and I'm talking crazy amount of CC in the kit, and it's, in my opinion, just a very, very fun build of playing Chronomancer as a support. So I hope you agree with me. If you do, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks again to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch and Patreon that help me keep the lights on. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.